This is Traver Boehm with One Day Stronger. For all of 2016, I lived the entire year as if it were my last year to be alive. I dubbed the project the Year to Live Project, and it was a wild year. Before I set out on my adventure, though, I gave myself 12 guidelines, 12 maxims that I could fall back on when things got hard and I could use to encourage myself. And the very first one, and one of the most important ones, was to be vulnerable. Now, this was a huge leap of faith for me. I am a male. I was an ex-fighter. I've spent 39 years of my life working on becoming invulnerable. Yet here I was opening up to vulnerability. But truth be told, I didn't really know what it meant. I just heard that, hey, vulnerability is the ticket to happiness. It's the key to a great relationship. It's the key to a lot of stuff, to intimacy, to feelings, to enjoying the present moment, whatever it may be. But it was unicorns. It was this crazy concept that I couldn't put my finger on. And so it took me actually the entire year and all these wild experiences before it really settled in and dawned on me what vulnerability was. And now I can define it. Vulnerability is simply the act of taking a risk. It is the willingness to take a risk. That's it. I'm not talking about jumping out of airplanes here, doing wild and crazy things, fighting in a cage, sitting in the dark for a month. It's simply the act of taking a risk. And inherent in taking a risk is letting go of the control we have of the outcome of that risk, or of that action even. So if I do something where I know the guaranteed action, I'm not really taking a risk. I'm not being vulnerable. But if I walk into a dance class for the first time, I have no idea what the outcome's going to be. It could be the highest of highs. I could realize, unbeknownst to me, I have the greatest hips in America. And I am the world's greatest unknown dancer. Or I can walk into this class and every single person can point at me and laugh. Or anything and everything in between. But I have to let go of control and take that risk to experience whatever the outcome's going to be, and that's vulnerability. It's the same thing as walking up to someone that you don't know and saying, "Hi, my name is Traver. I'd really like to get to know you better. What do you think?" It's taking a risk. It's putting yourself out there. It's making a phone call where you don't know if the person who's going to pick up the phone is going to be mad at you or happy to hear from you, but you took the risk. You were the one that carried the vulnerability. And what I found is at the end of the day, when I put my head on that pillow, the more times I had taken a risk, the better I felt, no matter what the outcome was. There were times this past year that when I fell flat on my face. When I look back and go, I really don't want to live through that again. But more often than not, the outcome was favorable. And the outcome dropped a little penny in a jar. And the jar was my self-esteem. The jar was how I felt about myself. And I could look at that jar and say, even if I had some shitty outcomes, even if I had some finger pointing, even if I realized I don't have the greatest hips in America, that jar was still getting fuller and fuller. And the fuller that jar was, the richer my human experience was. The more I was open to experiencing more joy, more sadness, more anything and everything in between, more love, even more fear. But I could feel it and it was real. The more risk I took, the more real my life became. The more textured it became. The more nuanced it became. The more exciting it became. The more enlivened it became. The more alive I felt. And it all stemmed from that one key. From allowing myself to walk into a room and not knowing what was going to happen. from being willing to experience the highest of highs and the lowest of lows and saying, hey, I got no control over what's happening here, but I'm going to walk in that room anyway. That, to me, is the definition of vulnerability. Take this definition and do one thing today. One thing where you don't have a control over the outcome. If someone asks you a question, tell them an answer that may be a surprise to them, if it's truthful. Take the risk. Say hi to someone you've liked for a long time, but you're too nervous about speaking to. Sign up for that course. Do something outside your comfort zone where you don't have control over the outcome. That's vulnerability. Vulnerability was the very first maxim I put on my Year to Live project, because I knew no matter what happened throughout the year, as long as I was willing to take risks, the year would be amazing. Please subscribe to these videos and share them if they help you. If you get something out of this, please give this to somebody else and help me spread the message. And thank you for watching. I look forward to giving you more information soon.